Alright guys, it's jerninhgam here. Two more coronavirus cases have risen in Telford in residential homes, which it means, I don't know if it means old people's homes or things, but I just thought I'd update you guys and let you know the coronavirus, two more people have got the coronavirus in Telford, UK, Shropshire. Will it rise higher? Who knows? It's risen in London a lot and Manchester. Will this be even higher in Telford? We just have to see. People hope that they don't. 50 immigrants have come across the sea again today in the UK on a rubber dinghy. One immigrant has died in the water of Dover, I believe. One 16-year-old boy in the UK. So he was trying to reach the UK. So we're going to be showing you the video, which is very sad news again about an immigrant dying in the water, which most people don't want to be talking about, and that for that boy's family, he's going to be very, very, very upset and very heartbroken, because all they wanted to do, these migrants, is wanted to come across to the UK and enjoy the rest of their life and be happy and get on with things. Some people think they're just coming over just to steal the jobs and steal the fun, money and food, but sometimes they do these crossings because they don't really want to. If there's no money, no food and no water in their country, what they're going to do? They're going to do every step that it means to escape and come to our country. I mean, that's what you would do. Wouldn't anybody else do that? So we're going to be showing you a video of this guy talking about this 16-year-old boy that died in the water. Body was found. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be heartbroken, the people that know him. And at the end of the day, we're all human beings, aren't we? You know, we're not robots, so we're going to play the video.
Much and more risks than before.
There was perhaps a sad predictability to what happened. With so many trying to cross the channel in recent weeks, authorities on both sides feared loss of life. It was here on the beach of Songat that the body of a Sudanese teenager was found. He's believed to have been trying to reach the UK.
It was something we were afraid of because,
as you can see, there's a light above the guy's head. That's my lamp. That's the light there.
And the UK, with small boats, with migrants taking much and more risks than before, we would have found very soon dead bodies. We found one this morning, and we are very afraid of finding more and more in the coming days.
The alert was raised when another teenager was found on the beach with hypothermia in the early hours of the morning. He was taken to hospital, where he reveals that he'd been with a friend who was missing and couldn't swim. A search was launched, but the body of the 16-year-old was found washed up here at around 8 a.m. Prosecutors say the teenagers had stolen an inflatable and shovels to use as oars. Home Secretary Priti Patel said it was a tragic loss of young life, and highlighted the need to tackle the people smugglers. Dozens more made it across the channel in small boats today, but it seems the two teenagers may have gone it alone, perhaps unable to hand over huge sums to criminal gangs.
They are nothing but victims in this, and one of the saddest things for us has been that when people talk about smugglers and they blame smugglers for this, you forget that a lot of the refugees in Calais can't afford to pay smugglers, and particularly boys like this, it's very likely that they couldn't afford to pay a smuggler.
The teenager's death comes at a time of heightened tension between the UK and France over the growing number of migrants and asylum seekers setting off on a dangerous journey across the Channel. A week ago, Sky News witnessed a boat with 10 men on board being washed back onto the shores of Calais. The vessel had run out of fuel and was adrift near a busy shipping lane for 2 hours. This week, UK and French officials will meet again to try to thrash out a joint way forward. The tragedy at sea will be a potent reminder of the pressures they face. Michelle Clifford, Sky News, Songat.
I mean, is this going to keep happening and happening? Will we give the French the money that we want for the borders, or will it just, you know, they keep coming in? I mean, we don't want to really be giving French the money, do we, really? But we have to help our own country out, and we can't help everybody, but what's going to happen? Let's see what else is on the TV then, I suppose.
Ghost town.
There's nothing else I can find here. Let's see here. Airports testing, reducing quarantine rules.
Airport arrivals has a new look. This is Heathrow's answer to post-travel quarantine.
When I get ready, I want you to check off the mask.
The boss was the first to visit this new testing facility. Passengers can book to be swabbed on arrival and then take a second test home with them. If both are negative, 2 weeks in quarantine could be halved.
Quick and easy. Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps, but it still needs the government to agree.
This is something for number 10 to really get a grip on and give us the green light to go ahead with testing. Testing is a very good way of...
They keep talking about testing and trace and ABS and testing. How are we really going to stop this coronavirus?
It should be good enough for visitors.
What's in it what's killing the people? It's not like normal flu.
An embattled industry fighting back. There's evidence double testing with 5 days in between reduces the risk of false negatives. But there's potential pitfalls and political caution.
Yeah.
The challenge is, because the virus can incubate inside your body without coming forward, and without, therefore, a test being positive even if you've got it, the challenge is how to do that testing in a way that we can have confidence enough in to release the quarantine.
But ramping up testing is the plan. Better technology, quicker results, and more tests for those without symptoms. A programme to test the spread amongst those who aren't ill will be scaled
Well,
from
don't drink,
28
that's the thing.
to 150,000.
It's a poison, isn't it?
The majority of people who turn up to a testing centre like this are showing signs of having the virus. But random testing samples done by the ONS showed that just 28% of infected people actually showed any symptoms. It's why experts say mass testing is so vital. It's the only way to catch those asymptomatic carriers.
A slow start to testing brought fierce criticism, but the UK fares better now with an average of 2.37 daily tests per thousand.
United
people,
Kingdom, United
just ahead of
States.
the US. It's better than our European neighbours Germany, France and Spain.
Germany, France and Spain.
Fewer than 1.3 tests per
Numbers,
1,000.
testing.
But it trails global leaders such as the UAE, New Zealand
Denmark,
and Denmark.
United States, Empire.
Critics say the logistics still need work.
We are running out of time, and that's why it's very urgent. Now, we're only using about half the testing.
Tony Blair's on here now.
So one of the things we suggest is, as you build up to mass testing using all the available lab facilities and these new rapid on-the-spot tests, that we also engage in using the testing capacity we've already got in order to test more groups of people.
Clearly there's work still to do.
Sky News.
Testing more people in more places, perhaps, our way out of this crisis. Helen Ann Smith, Sky News.
They've been saying that for a while. Way out of this crisis. We've been still stuck here in this crisis for a very long time. Is there going to be a way out of it? Some people wish there was, but who knows? Anything else on the news I can show while I'm here? May as well, the woman says to me. May as well. So we're going to be talking with Tony Blair. I'm going to show him Tony Blair's speech. This is what Tony Blair says.
I mean, you've been calling for mass testing since late March. It's now late.
He used to be the Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, but...
Well, I hope they're not. And actually, this morning, Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, was saying that the government does now want to move in the direction of mass testing, and that's to be welcomed. But it's also urgent. It's because there are really two things, I think, that lie behind the desire for mass testing. Number one, the majority of people who get COVID-19 are asymptomatic. So, in other words, they suffer mild or no symptoms. And therefore, if you're only testing the people with symptoms, you're not capturing a large number of people who, despite being asymptomatic, can nonetheless spread the disease. So that's the first point. And the second point is that it's one thing for the government to permit...
Sorry if my fan's very noisy and keeping cool in my house. It's a bit warm.
That they actually do those things. So you can say to people, go back into work, but if they don't feel safe, then they're going to be reluctant. And if you want to reopen schools, universities, workplaces, if you want international travel to function again, the only way I think you can do that is by doing testing at scale. And that's why we've got to move to this. And you know what we've tried to set out in the paper, which I signed actually not just myself, but with William Hague, who is my old Conservative opponent, and Jeremy Hunt, is just to say, look, this is not a political play. It's just when you look, and by the way, when you track what's happening around the rest of the world, this is where people are moving. They're realizing that it's hard to get the economy functioning again as it should.
You say that mass testing needs to be set up now or in the month of September to avoid a potential second wave that could hit the UK in autumn. I mean, we are running out of time, aren't we, if that is the case?
Yeah, we are running out of time. That's why it's very urgent. Now, to be fair to the government, it's not that they've been doing nothing. I mean, we've got the capacity now to test about 340,000 people a day.
Chairman Tony Blair for the global change.
Capacity. So we're only using about half the testing capacity we have now. So one of the things we suggest is, as you build up to mass testing using all the available lab facilities and these new rapid on-the-spot tests, that we also engage in using the testing capacity we've already got in order to test more groups of people. So, for example, when universities come back, the sensible thing is to test the students as they come back and do it at halls of residence. There's a lot of innovation happening in the testing space today. We set out a whole range of the new tests that are available. Some are available in this country. Some are being developed in the United States. I came across 2 just yesterday that have been cleared now by the authorities in the US. These are rapid on-the-spot tests that will give you the results literally in hours or sometimes even in a few minutes. If you're able to do that, if, for example, you were able to test people as they come into the country before they then leave the country, of course it would give you a much, much better way of avoiding the strictness of the lockdown and the quarantine rules that are going to do such damage to business.
How concerned are you about a second wave hitting this country? And if that happens, what will the consequences be?
There's already a second wave.
Sorry, I didn't hear that last
In some places, Manchester
a glitch on the line.
and Leicester already.
You talk about a second wave. How concerned are you of the possibility of that happening, and what would the economic consequences be to the country if that is the case?
Yeah, so the problem is that we're not going to be able to eradicate this disease. For one thing, it's circulating globally. So you're going to have to live with it. Now, the risk is, as you get into the autumn and the winter, and the weather gets colder, the days get shorter, the nights get longer, if you were to have a resurgence of the disease, maybe you won't, but if you were to, I think it's very hard to see how you go back into lockdown. Or at least without really catastrophic economic damage. I mean, already the damage from this is pretty terrifying in my view. And if you can't, therefore, by the time you get to when that resurgence may happen, if you haven't got the right containment infrastructure in place at that moment, then your risk is, yes, you end up with a second wave, and then you're faced with some absolutely impossible choices between locking down with all the damage that does and keeping open with the possibility of the disease spreading even further.
Yep, pretty true what he's saying. Pretty true. How are we going to get on top of this coronavirus? I think everyone's struggling in their own way over this. Will it ever end? That's the thing. Or will it keep going on and on?
There's work still to do. But testing
They're still talking about that thing on the TV.
our way out of this crisis.
They're still speaking about the
Helen Ann Smith, Sky News.
stuff on the TV.
In other news tonight, 2 of the 3 teenagers jailed for killing PC Andrews have launched appeals against their convictions for manslaughter. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole, who are both 18, have lodged applications for permission to challenge their convictions and 13-year prison sentences. Apple has become the first company to record a market value of $2 trillion after its shares rose nearly 60% this year. Sales have held up during the pandemic, and its earnings grew in every category and every region in the 3 months to June. The group of bottlenose whales have died after they became stranded on a beach in County Donegal in the Irish Republic. 6 are thought to have died, but 1 may have made it back to sea. The surviving whale was seen swimming after the tide came in. Experts say the stranding could have been linked to sounds emitted by naval exercises, which would have disorientated the whales.
Although you can't see them, there are marine mammals probably underneath them, especially in deep water. And sound travels faster through water than it does air. So, you know, the level of sound that you're producing is magnified, it's huge, and it does have an effect. And although we can provide some level of care to these live stranded animals and provide palliative care to reduce their stress, there is very little practically that we can do.
Get a first look at tomorrow's parent
This evening,
for
the US
press.
has said it will not seek the death penalty against 2 Islamic State fighters from the UK who are part of the execution squad known as the Beatles. In a letter to the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, America's Attorney General promised that if Britain grants their extradition request, they would not execute the pair. Well, Sky's James Matthews is in Washington for us tonight. And James, the UK has strict rules on extradition to nations with the death penalty.
Yeah, and that's been the stumbling block here. This pair were described before their capture in 2018 as specially designated global terrorists. Currently, they are held in northern Iraq by the US military in something of a legal limbo while a decision is made where they can face justice, where they can be prosecuted. The United Kingdom has stripped them of their British citizenship, says it doesn't have sufficient evidence to prosecute them in a UK court. The United States, in turn, has asked the United Kingdom in that regard to hand over evidence held in Britain, essentially 600 statements, witness statements given to the Metropolitan Police. That's been legally difficult because the Supreme Court in the UK has said America can't get access to that because it has not given a guarantee that the pair will not face the death penalty should they be convicted. That is what has changed today. Bill Barr, the US Attorney General, has written to the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, saying such a guarantee will be given. In his letter, he says, "We confirm that material already provided by the United Kingdom in response to the mutual legal assistance request
Interesting.
will not be used to seek the death penalty in any prosecutions the United States might bring against Cote or El Sheikh." Moreover, he goes on, "We will not transfer any evidence already or subsequently provided to us by the United Kingdom to third countries that might impose the death penalty." Britain had already complied with the US request to hand over the evidence in question in 2018, but that was ruled unlawful by the courts only a couple of months ago because the lack of a death penalty was not delivered. It was an ongoing legal process that lasted for some considerable time. In the course of that process, lawyers for the families of one of these 2 men had said that Britain only handed over that information without seeking any guarantees because it didn't want to upset President Donald Trump.
James, thank you. The death of George Floyd has thrust the issue of race to the heart of the US election campaign. Tonight at the Democratic Convention, the country's 2 leading African-American politicians will take centre stage. The former President Barack Obama and the Vice Presidential candidate Kamala Harris. They hope that a big turnout from their community in November will help remove Donald Trump from the White House. Our US correspondent Cordelia Lynch reports now from Detroit on the battle for the black vote.
At Uptown Barbecue in Detroit, there's a line of people yearning for stability and civility.
I feel like anybody better than Trump right now. I mean, they gave him a shot, why not give him a shot?
African Americans are a historically loyal voting bloc for Democrats, but there's a generational divide afoot.
Well, as far as young voters, I know a lot of young kids, and I don't really know any kids that vote. So, I don't know. Why do you think that is? I think they believe voting isn't really doing anything or changing anything, and everything is really staying the same.
The fact is, Joe Biden has a problematic record on race, but down the street you can sense forgiveness for the sake of change.
Now, Joe Biden, he never had my vote, to be honest with you. He earned my vote.
How did Biden win your vote?
You know, for the simple fact that there's a lot of pressure on Joe right now. If he is to get elected, he has no choice but to do what the people need him to do, and which is help the people.
The 77-year-old is, though, an imperfect candidate for an imperfect age.
Who do you think's going to ultimately win?
I think, when it all shakes out, I think they're going to slip Trump back in. I really do. They're going to slip him back in.
Biden's best bet may be to bank on enough anger and exhaustion to unseat his opponent.
Some of us will have to hold our nose and clutch our pearls as we do it, but we won't survive another 4 years of this administration.
How many people do you know that are willing to do that?
To do
To clutch their pearls and hold their nose?
quite a few.
I think the current president asked, what do we have to lose? I think we've seen what we had to lose, and just humanity, respect.
I've lost 5 family members to COVID. 2 uncles, and they died a day apart. A cousin who was 40 in top health. So not only do we run the risk of losing our home, losing our livelihood, some of us have given the ultimate sacrifice because of his recklessness.
It is turnout that could make or break Democrats.
What's interesting is I've spoken to about 40 people here, and every single one says they're going to vote. They don't necessarily want to tell me who they're voting for. They're not necessarily that enthusiastic about the candidate, but there does seem a definite determination to get their voices heard.
Those who protest don't always vote. Success may well depend on how much faith is left in politicians. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Detroit, The Shire.
Technology that allows drivers to take their hands off the wheel could soon be a step closer. The government has launched a consultation into what's known as the automated lane keeping system. Our technology correspondent Roland Manthorpe has the details.
Max's car can drive for itself, some of the time. It's got an autopilot system which can take over as long as he keeps his eye on the road and his hands on the wheel.
I think I'm quite aware of being there as the driver. It's my responsibility if something happens. I've got my family in the car, right? Like the buck stops with me. But I think the slight delegation, having something else do the moment-to-moment stuff, does free you up a bit to feel a bit more like a passenger.
We could be seeing more of this kind of technology according to new proposals from the government, which is investigating whether to make it legal to use more advanced automated systems on motorways. Handsfree.
Hey, so I got a bit confused there. Doesn't like roundabouts. Beeped and prompted me to take over because there were 2 lanes and a roundabout and it didn't know what to do.
It'll be in the slow lane only, and they'll be checked to see if drivers are paying attention. But still, is this a step towards driverless cars?
People have been saying that driverless cars are right around the corner for about 10 years, but they never arrive. And the reason is that to go to a car like this, to one like this, which helps you automatically, is technologically speaking a relatively small step. To go to a driverless car is a huge step, and that's why they don't and might never exist.
Most self-driving vehicles aren't out on roads like these test cars, but are instead in confined areas like industrial sites or residential estates. The company behind their software says this latest development is still an important moment.
It's limited in its functionality, but if you take a helicopter view, it's still a vehicle deciding on its steering and its speed, without you steering or controlling the speed. And it has to perceive its environment, it's got to know where it is, it's got to know where other vehicles are. These are the building blocks of autonomy. Right? Have no doubt. So where am I, what's around me, what should I do? Those are the 3 pillars of autonomy, and they are present in the system.
The Department for Transport said it would start a formal consultation on the proposals at the end of the year. Things are moving forward, although not at motorway speed. Ronnie Manthorpe, Sky News.
Now, a new exhibition of paintings has been unveiled by Rolling Stone guitarist Ronnie Wood. Proceeds from the event are going to NHS charities, as Katie Spencer found out.
While countless musicians would cite the Stones as being one of their biggest influences, if you want a clue as to who inspires Ronnie Wood, look no further than his paintings, from Picasso to Delacroix. He's no stranger to selling out stadiums, but in a matter of hours, tickets for Wood's biggest art exhibition to date were gone. Taking place in the grand setting of Ashridge House, the Stones guitarist can't wait for people to see what he gets up to off stage.
There's an incredible amount of noise going on in those paintings. Anyone that gets into the painting and observes close enough can hear the din that's actually coming out of it.
It's fair to say Wood knows a thing or two about filling life with colour.
Of course, decades of hard living and hedonism from being in one of the biggest rock bands in the world will probably do that. But what many people don't know is that the painting actually came before his performing.
Trigonometry and algebra that I learned at school I don't use very often, I must admit. But I do use the skills of observation and to see beauty in things. I was painting before I learned how to play the drums and the guitar.
You encourage your little ones to sort of slosh paint around?
Yeah, I do, yeah. They make an awful mess as well.
During lockdown, as well as spending time with the newest additions to his family, Wood has spent most of his pandemic painting, producing works like these.
I thought, I'm not going to let lockdown depress me in any way. Sometimes I have a musical period, or maybe it's just the art. That's what I've been doing lately, not playing. Not through choice, but I'm looking forward to the day when I can play again.
Of course, at the moment, it isn't entirely clear when the Stones will be able to be back doing what they do best.
We're not holding our breath, otherwise we will collapse. The thing is, there's got to be a time when somebody sorts out what we, some direction of what we're going to do. Somebody's got to lead this thing.
Are you assuming at the moment it is going to be a few years before you're back out on tour?
Oh, no, please don't say a few years. I want to be out this time next year, for sure.
Content for now to show that there are more than the 6 strings to his bow, but be in no doubt Ronnie Wood has no plans to permanently swap playing for painting. Re-energised, he's raring to get back on the road. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Well, that was News at 10. Coming up, the press preview, including this story on the front of the Daily Express. Brexit trade talks hit a roadblock, the paper suggesting there. Well, tonight we're joined by the consultant editor of the Daily Mail.
Anyway, guys and girls, if you want to watch these people on Sky News from the UK, watch more news of this. I'm going to be ending this video now. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you all in the next video. Peace.